decades from now, Warner Brothers' mismanagement of the DC franchise will be studied by scholars. There will be books written about everything from the failure to launch a cohesive cinematic universe, to the constant backpedaling and blame-shifting done by a bunch of suits who are masters of dodging accountability. The studio has undergone several regime changes, but after the colossal catastrophe of TheFlash, it owes each and every single DC fan a genuine apology. Welcome to Comixing. Today we will talk about WB screwed over the DC universe by being total a-holes since 2017. Remember the time when Warner Brothers decided it would be a good idea to take over the reins of Justice League and get Joss Whedon to reshoot a sizable chunk of the movie a few months before its release? It turned into one of the biggest fiascos in showbiz and divided the DC fandom to a point of no return. Whisper campaigns did the rounds about how Zack Snyder's version was unwatchable and the suits needed to do something to intervene, again, failing to take any accountability for the studio's part in letting this mess snowball. Let's forget what anyone thinks of Snyder as a filmmaker for a second here. He hasn't been a part of the DC film universe for 6 years now, more time than when he was considered the architect, and the DC universe is nowhere near being the darling Warner Brothers imagined it to be. In fact, it's worse. Yet TheFlash always remained the key film, regardless of which regime was in charge. Thanks to Barry Allen's ability to traverse the multiverse, this could be the film to reset everything, to wipe the slate and start over again. Amusingly, the movie does none of that, forgoing the chance to reboot everything for a chance to include a George Clooney as a Batman gag instead. Word of mouth travels fast, and the audience has largely rejected TheFlash as being a cul-de-sac movie. Financially, it's one of the worst-performing DC films in recent history, and it's likely to be a $200 million loss for the studio. Everyone involved in Blue Beetle and Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom must be trembling in their boots right now, especially since they haven't received the same marketing love as TheFlash did from Warner Brothers. Why Warner Brothers should apologize. Realistically, TheFlash isn't a bad movie. In fact, it's good, but not great. It has its problems. However, that doesn't take away from the overall enjoyment of the story. What it isn't, though, is the greatest superhero film of all time, or even one of the best. Objectively, it simply isn't. Yet, DC Studios co-CEO James Gunn and Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav, straight-faced, said it is to all of us. Now everyone understands the principles of marketing and the hype machine. Even if a movie is bad, don't expect the people to cop with it and call it a bigger piece of crap than what the dog left on the lawn. However, there is a fine line between PR and straight-up BS Gunn, and Zaslav lost the audience's trust with their comments about TheFlash. They might have enjoyed the movie, which is fine, but calling it the greatest or one of the greatest is like someone saying Biodome deserves to be mentioned in the same breath as Titanic. They overhyped the movie to sell tickets. That's exactly what happened here. The problem is no one will believe a single word that comes out of their mouths after this. DC fans have been deceived by Warner Brothers over and over again with empty promises of a new dawn. At the end of the day, it's anything but. While Zaslav and Gunn can't be blamed for the problems of the past, they are continuing the trend of losing the audience's trust now. It's time for them, or anyone there really, to stand up and say, mea culpa. Own it, apologize, and actually do better. The way forward. It's going to be a rough few years for DC and Warner Brothers right now. No one knows what will stay and what will go, apart from the people at the studio, and that's debatable too. What is clear, though, is a full-blown reboot is the only way forward, since it's pretty clear that the studio simply hates Zack Snyder and won't bring him back to complete his story, which by the way has been the most successful DC universe financially so far. Blue Beetle and Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom are unlikely to be financial successes. In fact, don't bank on Superman, Legacy bucking the trend either. DC fans will need to see a plan in action. The detractors won't go away, but the studio also needs to practice more honesty. Be realistic with expectations and what audiences can expect to see coming forward. Complete the current slate of films started by the previous regime and move on. It wouldn't be the worst plan in the world if Warner Brothers actually delayed the entire reboot in favor of getting the Batman 2 and Joker, folie à deux out of the way first, then starting fresh. But first and foremost, this studio needs to own up to its mistakes and apologize for letting down the fans because of the self-created corporate chaos. What is your opinion? Write down in the comments below.